If you are wondering which phone is the best for videography, you are not alone. I was asking myself the same question, and I decided to compare the most popular flagship phones to each other. That would be the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is the most sold flagship phone, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is the most popular Android flagship phone, and the Pixel 9 Pro. I also added the Vivo X200 Ultra to the batch, since in my opinion, it is the best camera phone on the market with some insane specs, including a nice 35mm main lens. And more, this is Tecmo, and this video is sponsored by Squarespace. With Squarespace, you can create a website in just a few minutes and upload your content there easily. Let's start with a blind test. I'm shooting in 4K at 30 frames per second, and you can decide which camera is your favorite. This is a reference shot of Tanya that I captured with a Sony Cinema camera. Camera A has a very vivid colors, and the greens are deep and saturated. The skin tone is very accurate in my opinion. The second camera's colors are more muted and less vivid. Also, Tanya's face looks whiter on this one. Camera C is closer to the subject, and that probably gives it away. It also creates a nice looking bokeh in the background and has a distinct magenta tone on Tanya's skin. The last camera is a little washed out, does some sort of smoothing, and has more neutral colors. Camera A was the Galaxy, camera B was the iPhone, camera C was the Vivo, and camera D was the Pixel. The Galaxy is more vivid. The iPhone has muted colors. The Vivo uses a 35mm lens instead of a 24mm and looks more filmic because of that. And the Pixel has its own distinct processing in place. In bright situations, they all produce good-looking videos, and the amount of background blur or bokeh is similar on all of them. The processing, of course, differs since each uses its own in-house processing algorithm, and you should pick the one you prefer. I personally prefer the Galaxy's look. The problem I have with the iPhone is that sometimes the colors are washed out, and not necessarily in a neutral way. The Vivo's Zeiss natural color mode has too much magenta, which is something easily fixable in post, but if I want to edit the video, I shoot in log anyway. You can change the lens while shooting video on all of them, and they all create some kind of color shift. Among them, I would say the iPhone creates the least amount of image shift, and the transition is smoother. The video quality is also comparable indoors in lower light situations. All of them apply denoising, which helps create a cleaner video even at higher ISO. With the Vivo, the main lens is sometimes too tight, but fortunately, the ultrawide lens is almost as large as the main lens, so you can switch to that when you want a wider frame. All phones can shoot in 4K like any other phone these days, but what's unique in the Vivo X200 Ultra and Galaxy S25 Ultra is that they can also shoot in 8K. You do get more detail and a sharper image in 8K, but frankly, I wouldn't overstate the benefits unless you absolutely plan to punch into the video, like doing a 2x zoom, for example. On the Pixel, there is a 8K mode where the phone uploads the footage to the cloud and upscales it. Interestingly, that makes a noticeable difference in quality. The color science also changes, since there is more processing happening to your footage. The Galaxy, iPhone, and Vivo can all shoot 120 frames per second in 4K, while the Pixel can only go up to 60 frames per second. That's a bit disappointing because, as you can see, the only one that doesn't create great slow motion footage here is the Pixel. Also, the Galaxy can only do 120 frames per second in Pro Video mode, and the video is warping a bit in that mode. By the way, this video is focused on videos, but I'm going to do a photo comparison of these phones too, so subscribe to not miss that video. I'll also upload some of the pictures to my website, which I created using a Squarespace called Tecmo Wallpaper. I built it with Squarespace in just a few minutes. The link is in the description, so you can download them for free. With a Squarespace, you can start with the Blueprint AI and build a website super quickly and efficiently in just a few simple steps. The website building tool is incredibly intuitive, and you don't need any experience. Everything is just drag and drop. You can also make some of the content on your website members only and monetize it. Plus, you can sell your online courses, blog posts, and videos without any hassle. They have award-winning templates that are completely free. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Tecmo, to save 10% off your first purchase. You're gonna love it. All of these phones have a rather small sensor with a fixed aperture. That means you cannot create as much bokeh as you can with a dedicated camera. All of them have a portrait video mode called Cinematic on the iPhone and Blur on Pixel, where the phone creates an artificial shallow depth of field for your subject. This mode works fairly well on all of them, and I see more and more people on Instagram and TikTok using it when they shoot video, which is cool, I guess. I personally don't use it. Pixel is a bit weird with blur mode though. You cannot zoom in and you also can't record in 4K, only Full HD, which is strange. Among these four phones, 3 of them support log. Log is a color profile with extremely washed out colors. At first glance, it looks wrong, but this color profile gives you the most versatility for color grading your footage, since the shades of gray are all treated with the same importance. The Galaxy log is nice, but it is a bit limited. It is not easy to color grade in my experience and only works well with Samsung official lookup table. The Apple log is easy to work with, and there are a bunch of tutorials and lookup tables that can quickly be added to your footage, like the one I added here to create a more retro vibe. But my favorite log to work with is the one from Vivo. It is the most versatile from my experience, and it gives you great dynamic range. It also exposes the footage nicely, even in auto mode. Here, I shot in log on the Galaxy, iPhone, and Vivo, and try to give all of them the same look and colors. That's in contrast to the baked-in colors on the Pixel. The advantage of log is the flexibility you get and the fact that you can make your footage look like it is out of a dedicated camera and not the usual saturated phone colors. You also don't always want to shoot on the main lens. There are 3 other lenses you can pick from: the selfie, the ultrawide, and the telephoto lens. Let's start with the selfie camera. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
We are now checking the microphone and the selfie quality on each of them. The Galaxy is not too wide, and that's a problem if you want to fit 2 people. Then we are on the iPhone 16 Pro Max right now. It's a little bit too green, no? You look dead, yeah.
Yeah, the shadows are,
I don't like it. We are on the Vivo X200 Ultra. Things are right.
I like the colors.
You like the colors?
Yes.
And now we are on the Pixel 9 Pro. It is really wide. I like it.
Yes.
But also, it is a little bit contrasty. Too much contrast, no?
I don't know, I can't tell if that's just the screen being dark.
And next, we are combining the mic test with the ultra-wide lens test.
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Just make sure your umbrella is upside down.
Generally, you want to avoid using the ultra-wide lens in low-light situations, except on the Vivo X200 Ultra, where the ultra-wide lens is almost as large as the main lens. That means you get better dynamic range on the Vivo compared to the others, as you can see in the sunset video. The same goes for the telephoto lens. The Galaxy, iPhone, and Pixel all have 5x telephoto lenses. The one on the Vivo is 3.7 times, which is labeled as 85mm. But the sensor size on the Vivo is the largest among these 4 phones, and it is the only one that gives you decent results even in low light situations. This crazy telephoto lens is the main reason behind the large camera bump on the Vivo X200 Ultra. It is also a great touch if you're into wildlife photography and videography. The other 3 flagship phones also do a decent job though, as long as you have enough light in the scene. But sometimes there is too much light, which causes your shutter speed to go too high. Generally speaking, when you are shooting at 30 frames per second, you want to keep the shutter speed at 1/50th or 1/60th of a second, depending on your region and the frequency of the power grid. That's where you can pair your phone with a variable ND filter to control the amount of light coming into the camera. My favorite system is a brand called Newer, since it is plug and play and doesn't require any extra accessories. There are other brands like Vivo that also have good solutions, but they are more expensive. I link both of them in the description. When you're using an ND filter and controlling the shutter speed on your phone, you will get much more natural looking motion. And that brings me to the other point. Not all of these cameras have a native app that gives you enough options to control the video. Among them, the Galaxy has the best camera app for video. There is a Pro Video mode that gives you every option that you can imagine, including false colors and zebra to control your exposure, and in general, the interface on the Galaxy is intuitive. My next favorite is Vivo. It also gives you pro features to control the white balance, shutter speed, ISO, and other settings. The iPhone 16 Pro gives the least amount of options, and you have to install a third-party app if you truly want to shoot like a pro with it. There are some nice free apps for iPhone like the Blackmagic app. The problem with the Pixel is that it doesn't give you any pro features for taking videos, apart from some basics like changing the FPS. Unfortunately, I personally don't know any Android app with a great interface. There are some, but I'm not a big fan. In general, the Galaxy S25 Ultra offers a great set of features. The standard color profile is a bit vivid, but the videos are always consistent and the processing is very natural. It is a good all-arounder. The iPhone color profile is what most of us are used to because of how much content we consume every day on social media that's shot on iPhone. I'm personally not a big fan since my skin tone looks too green on it. There is also a camera button that some people may find useful for zooming into subjects and giving a more camera-like feel. The Vivo X200 Ultra also has a button similar to the iPhone. It features a 35mm lens that gives you a more natural look compared to the commonly used 24mm lens on most phones. It has a lot of color profiles, including Zeiss Natural and Zeiss Vivid, and the log footage is great for color grading. It also has 3 excellent lenses, whereas most other phones usually only have a great main lens. One thing to note is that I had some trouble importing the videos from the Vivo into Adobe Premiere. I had to convert them, and even after changing the video settings, it didn't help. The Pixel 9 Pro has a distinct look. It is rather contrasty. The phone doesn't offer the best software features for video, but at the same time, the upscale 8K video recording is quite nice, and I like the footage coming out of the cloud. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch the camera comparison of these 4 phones next. Thanks for tuning in to TechMo, and I will see you in the next one.